in fact, this is most true, quite frankly, in the Typhoon Yolanda affected areas. It's a very important area that I think the government needs to focus on immediately. I mean, the agricultural sector was badly hit by Typhoon Yolanda, specifically around coconuts. And the questions one must ask themselves is, if you were given a clean slate, what would you do? Right? There is, in fact, the reality that because the damage was so extensive that you have to wipe the slate clean in certain areas, and therefore there is the opportunity to do something different, to take a new approach. And I think the farmers need to be taught how to do that.
Bobby?
And to that point, I think tragedy like Yolanda, we can capitalize on that. Let's shift some of those rural workers to manufacturing jobs. And you asked about education. I'd like to answer it two ways. One is for high school, one is for college. Let's remember, manufacturing can take people with college graduate as long as they're 18. That's why K-12 is really perfect. But it's not enough.
You mean high school graduate?
Yes, the high school graduate. That's why it's perfect. They're ready at 18. But we need more internship. A lot of people are advocating it so that we ensure that they have the right skills to perform well in manufacturing. On the college area, we need to encourage more science and engineering. Make no mistake, we have a lot of them, right? But when we're getting up to the point that we almost have more business and marketing graduates than engineers, then I get worried. Let's push more engineering education.
Eileen?
Education is very important, but having said that, tourism caters to the whole spectrum, for the least educated to the one who needs professional testing. And what we need to have in the tourism sector is to ensure that not only the technical skills but the soft skills, although it's inherent in us to be always, to have the good manners and right conduct in every level of the industry. But it's very important that we know how to transition them from a rank and file to a supervisor to a manager and so on. And we've noticed that most of the workers are on the rank and file, but we need to give them the ambition and give them the college education.
Okay, although we just have about 8 minutes to go, if there are any questions from the audience, could you stand up and wave your hand so I can see you? Yes, here, on table 35. I think that's Mr. Ordonez. We do have just 8 minutes to go. So I've introduced you, but let's keep the question short, Mr. Ordonez.
The question is very short. Mr. Solivan is probably going to be the hope for inclusive growth because he's doing agriculture. Mr. Solivan, you have said that the farmers should be trained, and yet extension workers of the are now with the local governments, and they're not doing the training. What do you think is the solution to this problem?
Well, personally, what we have done in our institution, which is agriculture basically, is that we've taken it upon ourselves to educate communities that, let me speak in terms of just the Typhoon Yolanda communities that we are starting to work with now. We've taken it upon ourselves basically to set up programs that will educate farmers on some new farming techniques, for example, in the rehabilitation of their coconut farms, for example. In the hopes that it then becomes a demonstration, right, for other communities in the area to see, right, and say, oh, it can work this way. And in the process as well, you obviously do want to bring in let's say the Philippine Coconut Authority, right, to be a participant there, so that they can also take ownership, I suppose, in something like that. But as a private sector, remember the private sector, we have limited ability to disseminate this type of information, on a national level. And obviously coconuts are an important crop for us on a national basis. But that's one approach that we are taking in this particular case.
I think I have time for one more question. There's one there at the very back. Please introduce yourself and then please keep the question short.
I'm Joey De La Cruz from the Philippine Commission on Women. I would like to ask regarding the issue of gender aggregation on labor and also in education in order for us to actually move forward for inclusive growth. And what are your prospects regarding the issue, with regards to this issue?
Did you want to direct that to one of the specific member of the panel?
I would like to direct it to anyone who can answer this question.
Let's try manufacturing.
I was going to say ladies first, but yeah, I think, and that's a very good point. Women is a very important contributor to the manufacturing sector. One thing I didn't mention earlier was that one of the features last year of manufacturing is that we're seeing the return of the labor-intensive sectors. We're talking about garments. Garment surpassed $1.5 billion in exports last year. And footwear. There was an announcement of a footwear investment in Subic. We haven't heard that in a long time, no? And who are the perfect workers for garments and footwear? They're women. So certainly a big contribution to their part.
We picked the manufacturing there because, as Eileen pointed out, the problem is reversed in tourism, where it's all women.
Yeah, well, yesterday I was in the Women's Business Council, and I think it's a topic in APEC where the empowerment of women, resiliency, and so on. So I think there's a lot being done right now, not only in the Philippines but in the global level, of how we need to just have a few more quirks, I guess, for women who, of course, have babies and all of that. And we just have to create a few policies within the workplace that takes care of that.
Before we end, let me ask Roger. I was very interested when you were talking about coalitions. How have you found, aside from the data.gov.ph project, have there been other examples that stand out for you in the Philippines? And what do you think would make Filipinos from the different sectors, government, public, and private, make them feel the urgency to get together and to come up with solutions?
Well, let me dwell a little bit on the data.gov.ph, because this was an initiative which really we saw start and come to fruition in nine months. And many departments had been working on open data, so pretty much every department had an initiative on it, but it sort of was never really coming together, no? And what we saw happening was suddenly the presidency, Department of Budget and Management, private sector, just getting together and saying, listen, we all believe in this principle. A lot of departments might be sort of still polishing their data and they're not yet ready. But if we give this a real concerted effort, we can do this. And it showed to me that it's not the lack of capacity in this country that's lacking at all. If there is this coalition and there is this will, then the group of youngsters actually who put it all together is easily found and can do this. So a lot of the reasons why reforms are stalling is that they're stalling in a way on purpose, because they're vested interests, people are not sure. I'll give you a negative example, the sin tax, yeah? So here was a reform where you could find little against it. It saved lives, it brought in much needed revenues, it would level the playing field between the private sector. That took a year of, trench, fighting, and it only passed in the bicameral by 10-9. That, to me, was the example of if you tackle these issues one at a time, you're going to run into such focused lobbying against it that this is not the way to go. This is not how we can look at the 856 days left. There needs to be a much more ambitious reform package. And I think if I see those examples of data.gov.ph, what can be done, I think it's eminently possible.
Okay, unless I get a signal from the backstage, I think we have to end.
Excuse me, can I make a comment?
Hold on, let me ask the backstage if I'm allowed to continue. Okay, without a signal from the backstage, I think it says time is up. I'm very sorry.
Just a comment, it's like this. You have this text here, and
yes.
I have been putting questions already in, actually for the panel, and
yes.
it seems not to reach you.
Yes, I'm afraid it hasn't reached me. But we'll try to get your questions to the panelists and get back to you. Thank you very much. Okay, please join me in thanking our panel this morning.
A big thank you to our speaker, moderator, and panelists. To introduce the next panel, may we call on the President of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, Mr. Julian Payne.